If I may, Ms. Laura, if you will go ahead and take roll call.
Mr. Warner.
Here.
Ms. Smith. Here. Mr. Watkins.
Here.
Mrs. Martins. Here. Mr. Bowers is not present. Mr. King.
Here. We do have a quorum, thank you. If we will all stand for the pledge of allegiance.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will welcome our online visitors, if there are any out there, to this meeting tonight. And if I may, we'll move to approval of the agenda. Page.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Mr. Walters has asked me to provide language for the council to consider that would amend the agenda to move from action items. Number one, discussion and consideration of an appointment to the planning commission to following the closed session. And if you all want to consider that, all you would need to say is so moved.
I so move.
Okay, so I do have a motion to amend the agenda as stated.
Second.
Second, any discussion on that? If hearing none, Ms. Laura, if we can go ahead.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Ms. Smith. Yes. Mr. Watkins.
Yes.
Mrs. Martins. Yes. Mr. King.
Here.
Yes.
Okay, so that motion does pass. The agenda has been amended as stated before. And so as far as the consent agenda, Council, you've had that information minutes before you from the December 21st, 2020 meeting of the Town Council, as well as our financial statements for December of 2020. So if there's no comment on that, I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as stated.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Second, and any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, I can just do a roll. Okay. All in favor, let's say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? None, motion has passed. Of course, we have no public hearing tonight. And Todd, Mr. Walters, do we have any citizens' comments or anything?
No, sir, I didn't receive it.
Okay, great. And so I would say moving forward, we're going to go through the audit, the findings of it. Okay.
We'll be on the big screen.
Oh, this is new. Okay. So if we can go ahead with the findings for our year-ending audit for June 30th, 2020. I will give the floor to you.
James, are you there?
I am here. I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm James Kelly, Ramos Farmer Cox. We've done the audit for the last few years. Here to let you know the results of our audit. Basically, I'm going to go over the opinions that we issued. The opinion that we issued. Can you advance, Marissa?
I think they're controlling the PowerPoint.
Okay, gotcha. We'll go over some of the financial statements, some of the budgetary analysis. We'll discuss the CARES fund just a little bit and have time for any questions that you all might have. The objective of our audit is to express an opinion as to whether your financial statements are fairly stated and materially correct in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. We're also required under government auditing standards to issue a report on your internal controls. The opinion we issued was unmodified. That is the highest level of assurance that our profession allows us to give. Basically states that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. And there are no additional adjustments, material adjustments that we're aware of that need to be made to those financial statements. As I said, we also required to issue a report over your internal controls. We don't issue an opinion on those controls, but however, we would bring to your attention any areas that we consider to be significant deficiencies or material weaknesses or areas of concern. We did not identify any areas, any deficiencies in your internal control system that we considered to be material weaknesses. Internal controls were in place, and for a town the size of you all, they're working as designed. The next slide shows basically the balance sheet. It's the summary statement of net position. This is on the full accrual basis, which is the basis of accounting that corporations and Google, Amazon uses. It records all the capital assets and infrastructure of the town, also records the actual debt owed on those capital assets. You can see at the bottom, the first column, the governmental activities, which is the general fund of the town, ended the year with a $4.2 million net position. Of that $4.2 million, $1.2 million was unrestricted. Likewise, in the business activities, which is the water and sewer fund of the town, the water and sewer fund ended the year with a net position of $9.1 million. And of that 9.1, 117,000 is unrestricted. The next slide goes over the changes in net position. This is basically your income statement if your revenues exceed your expenses for the year. And again, this is on the full accrual basis. If you look at the third row up, you can see that the general fund had a deficit on the full accrual basis of $66,000 for the year, and that's mainly attributable to depreciation expense, which is not an actual cash outflow of the town. It's just it's an accounting entry to account for the use of your fixed assets. The water and sewer fund, however, showed a positive net position of $220,000 for the year. So overall, the town showed an increase in net position of almost $155,000. The next slide will show is on the modified accrual basis. And this is the basis of accounting that you all use to prepare your budgets. Debt payments are recorded as expenditures, and capital projects are recorded as expenditures, unlike the previous statements we just saw. And on this modified accrual basis, the revenues actually exceeded the expenditures for the general fund by $189,000 for the year. So that increased the actual fund balance of the general fund to $1.579 million for the year. The next slide will show the town has adopted a policy where they would like where it's required that the unrestricted fund balance is at least 15% of your annual budgeted expenditures for the year. That unrestricted fund balance this year was $1.5 million, and your budget expenditures were a little over $1.6 million. So you actually, you're well above your 15% threshold. You're almost at 90% for FY 2020. So the next slide will show how well the town was able to forecast their anticipated revenues, and the following slide will be the expenditures. You can see the town budgeted 1.6 in revenues and actually received almost 1.9. The majority of that increase is due to the CARES Act funding. I think the town received about $113,000 or so, and you can also see there was a spike in the revenues from the Commonwealth, increase of $117,000 or a surplus of $117,000 over what was budgeted. So those are the two main drivers were your actual budgeted revenues or your actual revenues were exceeded your budget. Now we'll look at on the expenditure side. You can see that $1.9 million was budgeted and only 1.7 was expended. So you had a positive variance as well on your expenditure. So you collected more revenues than you anticipated, and you spent less than you anticipated. So it's positive in both areas. This chart just kind of shows the actual governmental revenues over the last 5 years. Again, you can see where the federal revenues and the state revenues increased pretty significantly in 2020 over the previous 5 years, which that led to your increase in the revenues for the year. This next slide also shows the expenditures over the last 5 years. It's been fairly consistent. At least the last 2 years have been fairly consistent in expenditures of the town. So nothing too out of the ordinary with this slide here. The next slide shows the actual revenues and expenses of your water and sewer fund. And as we saw earlier, there was a positive variance. If you look at the third row up, you can see that the water and sewer fund had its revenues exceeded expenses by $221,000 for the year. So overall, I think it's kind of a positive picture, at least through this wacky 2020 year that we had, that the town was able to hold its head above water, and it seems to be poised to move forward for, I'm sure you are, in 2021 so far. So the next slide will go through our conclusion. We did issue a management memorandum, and the purpose of that management memorandum was to make sure that the town, and they do have, I believe, in place after the result of our audit, specific policies that are required by the federal OMB, because I think it's my understanding that the town is going to be receiving federal funding and FY 2021, which will probably trigger a special additional audit. It's called a single audit in conformity with the uniform guidance of the OMB. Once you receive over $750,000 in federal assistance, you have to have some compliance audit work done. So in order to do that compliance work, you need to have these policies in place. So and I think the town is moving in the right direction to get that taken care of. We did have a couple of journal entries that were made by Teresa and her staff. No difficulties with management or anything in conducting the audit. And all in all, it was a pretty smooth audit. And I should have introduced Marissa Helmick. She's our audit manager on the job, and she was very knowledgeable and was actually at the town doing on-site field work during our audit process. So, and that's all I had right now, but I'll be glad to tackle any questions if anybody has any, or go into further detail. Or
Thanks, James. Council, any questions for James or Marissa? Staff, any questions? James, looks like we're just hearing good things, so we'll just thank you and Marissa for the work you did.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we have Teresa.
Well, those compliments for Teresa are going to be coming.
Yeah, absolutely, Teresa. Absolutely. She does a fantastic job.
Well, again, James, thank you very much. And Marissa, nice to meet you.
Yep, you too.
Thank you.
Take care.
Peg, I'll let you, do you want to elaborate on that compliment to Teresa?
Well, I've been through a number of audits in my time on council, and never have I heard anything but the kudos belonging to Teresa for the job that she does in looking at our financials and getting us through these audits, that this could have just been ditto. So thank you.
Go, Teresa.
Again, Teresa, obviously, we're all very pleased. Thank you very much for keeping us in the black. And I know you, like every other position here, everybody pitches in and helps out, so it kind of gets extended to everybody as well. Okay, so with that, no committee reports, of course, and move into staff reports. And Todd, you look like you're paced and ready to go, buddy.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you mine, and then Amber's and Chief Rinker's, they print theirs out for you, and it's with your packet there. Mine's gonna be brief. When you go through these holidays and winter time, it's a little slow. Not that that's a bad thing. So our planning position applications are due on Friday. I checked with Donna a little while ago. We are still at 0, so come Friday, I guess we'll make a decision on what to do next. I did hold a public planning commission meeting on January 4th. We really didn't have anything on the agenda. By the rules, they're supposed to meet every quarter, so I did hold a meeting, and it was mainly just an update meeting on what had happened since the last meeting, which was in September. Since last time we met, I've had no new zoning permits approved yet, so nothing to report there. I have been working on some, I've had, interestingly enough, a couple of different questions about a couple of different properties in town as far as zoning compliance and what they can and can't do on these certain properties. So been working on that, and we've received a couple of violations where people complaining about violations. So been reviewing that and working on that also. Public Works removed the Christmas decorations that was at the park down off of Congress Street. They've been assisting VDOT out here on John Sevier Road. We've been gathering some data for them for hopefully trying to get this water taken care of out here on John Sevier. Looking at a couple of different options. The one thing we were trying to find out is some depth of some existing utilities that could cause us a problem if there's some piping that needs to go across the road. When VDOT was out there last Thursday, they did do some drainage work, and on Friday morning that intersection was dry. So what they did at least keep the water in the ditch line. It is only temporary. Matter of fact, I seen them back out there today looking around. So we still don't know what the final product will look like, but it is on their radar. There has been money approved to work on it, so to me that's good. We had a water and sewer issue down there on Lee Street last week, and Ronnie and his crew took care of that for us. We did perform some street sweeping on Congress Street and on Cross Road. Not mainly the downtown area, the parking spaces were really bad with the stone piled up. So we had the time, the equipment, we could keep it running. I'd really like to get all the streets because there's still quite a bit of stone around. This time of year, you sort of get into, are we waiting on it to snow again, or do we go on and get it cleaned up? We may try to work on some of these subdivision streets again also. And then they perform the regular maintenance. Water department, we're continuing to work on our plan for the lead and copper testing. Johnny had gotten everything and sent it back to the health department for their approval on our plan forward. He told me this morning he still has not heard from them, so I think he's going to try to reach back out to them this week to see where they are on the plan we submitted. Then they just completed regular testing, regular meter reading, which I believe was today. We've had a couple of pump issues at some pump stations and stuff that they've taken up on. We had a sewer pump issue a couple weekends ago. Johnny come in and help the weekend out, take care of that. So, any questions?
Todd, on the Shady Lane Foundation.
Yeah.
What's the timeline there?
Well, I have not heard from him, so I don't know what his plans are from this point forward.
Okay.
I do know his permit through the county was only for the foundation. So I don't know that. I can reach out to him again and say, do you have a plan? But
There's been some activity.
has there,
Yes.
since he redid the foundation?
Actually, yeah, they back over with the length of the structure, the foundation, brought in chipstone. Looked to me like they're gonna use some type of drain perhaps, but,
Foundation, right?
yeah.
Yep.
I haven't seen that occur yet.
Okay. I can try to reach out to you and just try to get some sort of. I think you said, was the sale for sale somehow?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I actually, it's been a couple months ago, somebody actually, in here asked me about that one, so I don't think anything's happening. Good?
I have a question.
Okay.
Where are you advertising for the planning positions?
So we run it in the paper, we run it on VML's website, which is probably our best bet. If you're in government, you always look at the VML job website. I'm taking a look at it every week just to see what's going on. Both papers, VML. We don't know if how Indeed works, if it shows up on Indeed or not. Matter of fact, I haven't looked. I just think it's a couple of factors of why we're not getting anything. Could be the time of the year.
Could be COVID.
It could be COVID. It could be salary. I mean, there's a lot of things. That could be. I did talk to Brandon Davis about it, and just because I mean he was in contact with a lot of people. I mentioned it to him. He told me that a town up the road here just hired one at $100,000. So we can't compete with that. He said, well, what's happening is the money should be creep. So I hope it doesn't creep this time. But we'll just have to see. My initial thoughts is if we don't get anything, we'll re-advertise it, and I will not put in the, I'll just say open till field, and then try to keep it moving. I think on the VML website, you can go on there and move it so it moves back to the front page maybe or something. I'm not sure about that. I'll look today, actually, remember one or two other positions in planning. Of course, they were more north of the than the other. I don't know, we'll just have to see. Maybe Donna brought up a good point, we have to wait till May and graduation.
I've used Indeed with some success for upper management positions. It's a little different than just throwing it out there. I have had some success, but I've also gotten a lot of activity. So I think you do need to be prepared when doing that to have, all different levels of experience that apply for those. But I don't know. I know they have a paid thing you can do where they actually assist you in. And I'm not suggesting we go that route.
Right. Well, we, like I said, once Friday gets here, if we're not inundated with application between now and then, we'll have to look. Sure. But it will be real. I'm not going to want nobody to apply on
Any other questions for Todd? None? Okay. And Chief, you're gonna give your presentation or leave this stand?
I was just gonna leave it on the thing there. I don't have anything to comment on it.
Okay. Any questions for the chief? No? Okay. So at this point, we'll continue to move forward, and that moves into our action item. Of course, moving into closed session, Vice Mayor Harkness.
I move to recess into a closed meeting in order to consult with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by our attorney as authorized by section 2-3711 A8 of the state code. The subject matter of the meeting is utility disconnection memorandum exhibit. Discuss the hiring or appointment of specific public officers, appointees, or employees as authorized by section 2.2-3711 A1 of the state code. The subject matter is the appointment of a specific public official.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We do have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, Ms. Laura, if you'll do roll call vote.
Yes.
Mrs. Harkness? Yes.
Mr. Watkins?
Yes.
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 Motion passed. We will go into closed session. We'll give a 3-minute recess.